And, man, we're just really excited to welcome in David Carr to the mix. And,
Thanks
Dave,
for having me,
before
man.
we get going, man, I got to start here.
Okay.
I'm a man who prides myself on my hair. I think I got pretty good hair.
I think it's solid.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank
really
you.
good.
And I have to say, every time we see you, the hair is different, but it always looks good.
I
It
do have
always
a
looks
hard
good.
time with that. Like the changing of the hairstyles is something that I don't know why that is, but I've gone with something similar to what you have. I've done a whole bunch of different things. Derek actually called me and was like, "Hey man, I know you've had literally every European soccer haircut. What do you think I should do?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. Ask Heather. Ask your wife. Like she's gonna be more of a help." So he got a nice little trim. He cleaned up. He looks similar.
It looks good.
It looks
It
good.
looks
Yeah,
good.
I mean it's great. I mean he needed to do something.
I think it was time.
It was a little bit.
And the one
a
thing
little bit
I'm
too
always
much.
impressed, though, before we move on to the actual stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever we see you on TV, it feels like there was never the awkward phase of the hair. Because when you grow your hair out,
Yeah, it's
there's
hard.
kind of that
Well, that's what I
funky-
try to. It's hard because when you're on. If I'm on TV a lot, I don't have a chance to do the awkward phase. So like
Yeah.
the next haircut I go to has to be like instantly good.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of pressure, man.
It is.
You know?
It is.
So I'm gonna rock this one for a little bit, and we'll see what happens. This one's pretty easy. I just kind of get up and then go.
That's good.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah.
Or Grandpa, or whoever's in charge of that.
It's a-
I don't know whose fault that is, but I'll take it.
Yeah, whatever you're doing is working.
Yeah,
man.
appreciate
it's
it.
working.
Thanks, buddy.
But hey, we were talking. It's a busy week for all the NFL Network folks, all you
Yeah.
guys coming around to talk and get ready for the game. And I do want to ask you about the game in a sec. But going back to our building, we just
Yeah.
got here from Vegas a few days ago. A very busy 10, 11 days.
Yeah.
At the Intermountain Healthcare Performance
Been
Center.
busy.
And I'm just curious for kind of your 2 cents on what Josh is going to bring to the mix. We had a chance to sit down with him and Dave the other day
Awesome.
when they came in, and they strike me as 2 guys that are coming in with a plan, that know what they want to do,
Yep.
that they know how to be effective in
Yeah.
doing what they're doing. But I'm curious for
No,
your
you nailed it,
side of
man.
things.
You nailed it. I think the interactions that Derek has had with Josh have been incredibly positive, and I think that the main thing that sticks out is what you mentioned, is that they are 2 guys that have a very, very concrete plan of what they want to do. Like that was what was kind of surprising to, maybe not surprising, as you probably expect that from a guy with Josh's experience, but he came in and already knew what he wanted to do on offense and knew who he wanted to do it with, and the personnel he had a really good feel for. And Derek was like, he knew a lot about guys, and he's not even in this building. Like he knew what made them tick. He knew what they were good at. He knew where he was going to be able to put them in the offense to have them succeed. And for not even being in the building and knowing those intricacies and knowing what kind of makes guys tick, it was kind of freakish that he was able to figure that out without being in the building. So that was a really cool sign for Derek. He pinpointed all the things that Derek has been focused on over the last couple weeks as you reflect back on the season, where they can improve, how they can get better from a X's and O's standpoint to a player standpoint. And Josh kind of was right on the same page, So Josh has definitely been thinking about this Raiders team longer than just 2 weeks. Like he's done some research for sure.
And obviously from a guy who played the position, I'm curious just on an X's and O's, level. And we've talked to so many people this week, and almost all of them have said, like, hey, Josh's offense is tailored to what Derek does well. It's kind of tailored to, making the quarterback essentially the star of the show, for lack of a better term. But what does that really look like to have an offense that is tailored to the quarterback and puts him in a position to do what he does best?
Well, first off, the really nice part is it's a system that is very similar to what John did and what Derek has been doing over the last couple of years, where there's a lot of power to the quarterback, and there's a lot asked of him, from a pre-snap standpoint, shifts and motions, identification of coverage, what they're doing on defense, as opposed to some teams come in and they'll put in a system, like, for example, like Kyle Shanahan's system in San Francisco. It's just kind of, you just rip through progressions. We don't care what the defense is doing, right? On the flip side, what Josh wants you to do is we want to know not only what the defense is doing, but what leverage the middle linebacker is playing, what leverage is the nickel playing in this coverage. And the great thing is he's got a quarterback that can definitely do that. That's Derek's best quality, in my opinion. Ever since we've broken down film when he was 10 years old, that's why he's such a good player, is because he gets that. He knows everything the defense is doing. He knows everyone's job on the defense, and he'll line guys up. Like, I've seen him in games against opponents. He'll just wait. He knows the guy's coming down. He knows he's supposed to be in this gap. And so for Josh's system to kind of highlight that, that's great. They couldn't have brought in a better guy, honestly, because if it was another guy, I would be a little bit hesitant. If it was another system that was different to that was more progression-based, all right, we're going to take a lot of the pressure off Derek. Like, that's not what you want to do with him right now, especially with where he is in his career. you get to a point in your career as a quarterback where you want all of that responsibility on you because you know what they're doing, and you can only guess so well as to what they're going to play. You can send me a play, and it might sound great, and you might like it, but as soon as I line up and they change the defense, we're kind of stuck. But if I can adjust or I can have routes built into that play that I can adjust versus anything. I got a guy like Hunter Renfrow, which I have a crazy amount of respect for, and Derek loves, and they can feel each other out and feel the coverage out and find soft spots. That's what you want, man. And so it was a great hire by Mark. I don't know if he thought about that. Maybe he just liked the Patriot way. Maybe he wanted to try that. Maybe he's seen it be successful for so long that, that combination of GM and head coach, he just wanted to see what that was like. But, man, he hit a home run because the guy that he brought in just happens to be the perfect fit for your quarterback, in that system that they run. And you think about personnel-wise, too. It's like when the Patriots have always been successful, they've had a good tight end. Gronkowski got a pretty good one in Waller, right? Hunter Renfro's always been that, like, Edelman-type guy, right? Move him around, do option routes. They already established that. They got a good run game. So, yeah, you fill a couple pieces in, and away we go.
And we've talked so much about the future, and the future is bright, right? I think that the feeling in that building, and you probably know just as well as I do, there's a lot of optimism. People are fired up. There's a sense of like, okay, it was a great 2021. We got to the playoffs.
Yeah.
A lot of goals were accomplished. Not the ultimate goal, obviously, but now this is a great place to kind of jump off of.
Right.
But I'm curious for you, like on a personal standpoint, you look back to last year, and there were so many things that happened, good, bad, in between, right? Like at any point, do you have to like think as like a brother? How is he compartmentalizing getting from A to Z?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way I ever think, honestly. Like, I have to shut that part of my brain off when I go do TV or I do, where I have to just talk about the game from just a strictly X's and O's point, because that's all I ever see is Derek from a little brother standpoint, and a personal standpoint. And when he was going through all that stuff, I was just kind of sitting back in my chair, not able to do really anything, and watch him navigate that with Rich Bisaccia and the rest of those guys, and they did a brilliant job. They might not have won the Super Bowl this year, but as far as how they handled themselves, I couldn't be happier with watching Derek perform on the field, but then even off the field with some of the questions that he got. And I know how difficult that was because I was kind of walking through that with him. And, man, it was impressive. It was impressive to watch.
It's funny, too. Like, we've talked about it a lot, obviously, since the season ended. But I think, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I think the fan base is going to look back on this group with Rich and Derek and Josh and Darren, all those guys, and be like, you know what? Like, to your point, they didn't go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
They didn't get the ultimate prize. But that was a heck of a group. And
Absolutely.
That's a really special, unique group of dudes.
Because every year only one team is happy at the end of the year, right? But if you can have something like that to look back on, and I think I agree with you. Like, if you look back in 5 or 10 years, you might not remember the team 2 years ago, but you'll remember this team, for what they had to battle through and what they went through. So, and maybe some negative also, but I think that it's more kind of how you respond to that, and they did a great job.
Yeah, and I think like we talk about it a lot. I think that the fan base should be very proud of what this group put together in 2021. But looking ahead to the Super Bowl now on Sunday, and you're a busy man, you're going to be working, you're going to be grinding, but in terms of the game itself, what is, and it's kind of like a big, simple question, but like, what is Sunday going to come down to for you?
Well, it boils down to the defensive line of the Rams and the offensive line of the Bengals. And in my opinion, just because I've lived through that, and I realize that what Joe Burrow's been able to do in Tennessee, getting sacked 9 times and still finding a way to win, getting harassed in Kansas City, coming back from 18. It's like, when does your luck run out, dude? Because that's difficult, right? And he's waved his magic wand and found a way out of some of those problems. At least in Kansas City, he shakes Chris Jones off a couple times and makes some fantastic plays, almost out of character plays for Joe, because that's not necessarily what we know him for, right? But I think that if I'm the Rams defensive line, I'm pretty excited about this, and I try to look back at the history of this game. And I was with the Giants, and we had a pretty great defensive line, and they ended Tom Brady's season twice because of that. We look back just recently to last year, or you can look back to Von Miller when he was the defensive MVP 6 or 7 years ago in the Super Bowl. Same idea. Last year, defensive line kind of takes over and gives Pat Mahomes trouble, and they end up winning. So I'm careful to just say, oh, they'll figure it out. I don't think that that's the case. I am of the mindset that eventually this stuff catches up to you. And when I watch the Bengals offensive line schematically and from a physical standpoint, they have a clear disadvantage up against the Rams. So, and the Rams don't have to necessarily pressure. They don't have to bring extra guys to get to you. They can play that coverage. Jalen's great in coverage. He's the best in the league from a zone coverage standpoint. Highest graded guy, just getting all these numbers from Pro Football Focus. Like, they're great on the back end. And that front is going to give the Bengals some trouble. If they can run the ball, maybe, but they, the Rams shut that down against the 49ers pretty good, and that was kind of the one area. So if you're Zach Taylor, you got to try and balance it out. But the other interesting part, I was talking to Kurt Warner about this yesterday on our show. It's like maybe they'll just go empty. I'm like, man, that's terribly scary, right? It's like you're just going to empty it all out and let these guys come at you. He's like, well, at least I'll have somewhere to go with it quick, and Joe's good at that. So there's a scenario where I can see them figuring it out and making it work. I told him yesterday, I was like, it's going to be Rams by 30 or Bengals by 1. Like that's it. Like there's no like in between.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. They're going to blow them out, or the Bengals are going to hang around long enough and figure out how to win it by a field goal. So that's kind of how I see it.
I know, it's going to be an exciting game either way, and hopefully we have, we're playing in one of these sooner than later.
Absolutely,
and
man.
That would be a lot of fun. But hey, man, I know you're super busy. We appreciate your time today.
Got it.
And we'll see you on the network, and good luck with everything.
All right, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.